Ah, smells like memories. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and today I've got another book review for you. But before we get into that book review, make sure you are liking and subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you get regular updates for when I put out new content. Post every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And as I said, guys, this book is going to be Dragons of Autumn Twilight, the first book in the Dragonlance Chronicles. And this is kind of the first book in the pillar of the entire Dragonlance series, which if you know anything about us, like I think around 140 books, which is ridiculous. But basically, this is all just based around Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, I think the origins of this story is the authors played a campaign of Dungeons and Dragons and decided to novelize it, but more on that later. Basically, I read this a lot when I was a young kid. I picked it up in the library, and I think I read like 30 or 40 of the books. Like I've read a good chunk of Dragonlance. I've read the stuff that comes before this, chronologically, not in release order. They went back and filled everything in. But basically, I was sent this book by my good friend Nico from Nico's Book Reviews, because we both love this series. And so he was kind enough to send this to me, and then I stumbled upon a conversation in Discord where some people were going to be reading this. And I was already planning on reading it with some people in my Discord, and I decided to say, hey, do you mind if I jump in and read that with you? And that person was Evie from She Was Only Evie, and she invited me to be a part of what we are calling the Kryn Crew. And the Kryn Crew is made up of, I think, 9 or 10 of us. There's me, obviously, Evie, Klaus from the Contradictorian, Kate from the Almost Book Doctor, Johanna, Sarah from Sarah Reads. We've got Ian Porter from B&B Books, Noah from Everyone Who Reads It Must Converse, Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and Pete from The Ponderings of Pete. And I mean, I've actually made friendships in this group. It's fantastic. They all rock, and I've just loved talking with all of them. And so we all decided to read this in the month of June as a buddy read, and then of course I had conversation in my own Discord channels, and it's been a lot of fun revisiting this because it's been about 4 or 5 years. That said, let's talk about what this book is about. This is set in the world of Kryn, and it does revolve around Dungeons and Dragons, but the setup here is that the gods, hundreds of years ago, just left. They disappeared. The clerics are gone, everybody's gone. And there is this group of just heroes who decided to try and find the gods. And so they went out into the world seeking proof that the gods were still around. And they're meeting back home in Solus, which is a city in just Valenwood trees. It's so cool. I used to picture Valenwood trees or the city of Solus. I used to have daydreams and just, it was fantastic daydreaming about Solus just because of the way it's described. It's a city completely in the trees, except for like the forge, which has to be on the ground because of fire, which makes complete sense. But they're meeting back after being apart for 5 years, only to have a fateful encounter with a mysterious old man who brings them to attention to the high theocrat of the secret gods, which are just false idols. And this guy is just basically the head man in town, but he's a drunk, he's a fool, and whatever. But they run across 2 individuals who stumble in out of nowhere with one of their companions who happens to have a staff that ends up probably being proof of the gods, because their travels, they didn't find anything, and this launches them into the adventure at large. So, let's talk about the characters here, because I don't really want to spoil this if you haven't read it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's been around for a long time. This book is from 1984, I think, is when it was first published, which is 6 years before I was born. So it's been around for a while, but I'm still going to keep it non-spoiler. Don't worry. But the characters here are some of my favorite, and some of my least favorite, oddly. When I read this as a kid, it was always a 5 out of 5 read for me. Since I started my BookTube channel and really broadened my horizons, it kind of came down a little bit. This was still a 4 out of 5 read for me. One of those stars might be nostalgia. I'm not going to lie to you. So you might find it a 3.5 to a 3-star read. But there's a lot to love here, and there's also a couple other things. This is a very story-driven book. It is not going to be very character-heavy. You're not going to get that nuance. Basically, you are told who these characters are, and it goes from there. And it works if you understand that this is in fact a D&D campaign. You've got to understand that going in, because if not, the pacing is going to feel a bit wonky. The pacing goes, but it kind of jerks and sidesteps and weaves, just like a D&D campaign, and the characters always don't act the way that you think they should. Like, there's a little bit of inconsistency, which if you've, again, ever played D&D, that happens from time to time, when a character kind of breaks character and does what the player thinks should happen and not what the character should. And also, there were just situations that happened, like somebody would fall off a rope, or things of that nature, where you could basically hear a failed dice roll just rolling through the story, and then whatever happens happens. Like, they failed their stealth check, or they failed their acrobatics check. Things of that nature really happen here in this book. And I only just now noticed it because I've actually started playing D&D since the last time I read this. At one point, one of the mage character, Raceland, actually casts Featherfall. I never caught that before. And that's just a spell that means you float down to the ground instead of letting gravity pull you. And you smash into a little puddle. But that said, let's talk about the characters. Let's start with Raceland. Raceland is a red mage. And that just basically means he's not evil, he's not good, he is neutral. And he's kind of what Alan would call an edgelord. Basically, he's just broody to be broody. He wants power. He thinks he knows everything. He thinks he's above everybody. He holds everybody in disdain. Raceland actually used to be one of my favorite characters. That is not the case anymore. I no longer identify him. I think because I was a teenager, a rebellious teenager, I might have identified more with him when I was younger. But Raceland actually isn't on the cover, so I can't show you him. But basically, he underwent his trials during these 5 years away. Something happened to him. It wrecked his health. It turned his skin gold, his hair white, and now he's got like hourglass pupils, where basically whenever he looks at something, he sees its entropy and its decay instead of the beauty of the item in the moment. And so, but he says it's a worthwhile trade-off because he got magic. So that's Raceland. We've got Tanis, half-elven. I almost forgot. He doesn't have a last name. He's literally called, it's either Tanis or Tanis. We're going to go with Tanis because that's my headcanon. But basically, he is a half-elf who his origins was his mother was raped when, back before he was, his mother was raped, and thus he came into being. And he didn't fit in the human world, he didn't fit in the elf world, but he just had to make it work somehow. And so, he's an elf with a big old beard. You can actually see him right here. He is the leader of the group. And so he is very, very conflicted because he loves two different women, and that's kind of his main struggle. He loves an elf woman, and he loves a human woman who happens to be Raceland and his twin brother, Caramon's sister. But she doesn't appear in this book. She's only mentioned. So we're gonna leave her off the table and mention her in a follow-up video. Raceland's brother, I always want to say Cameron, but it's Cameron. He is the musclehead. He is the barbarian / warrior. He's not big on brains, but he is big on loyalty and friendship. He's very loyal to his brother, and something happened when Raceland took his test for his magic that shook their foundation of their brotherhood. And it's not addressed. It's addressed in other books, which I have read, so I know what happened. But unfortunately, that isn't addressed here in this book. One of the things I will say about this book, a side note from the characters, is that the story itself has plot holes. You are not meant to analyze this story. You are supposed to take it on face value. Everything that kind of has plot holes in it has been addressed in other releases outside of the Pillar 9 or 10 books. But that said, Caramon, he is strong, loyal, fierce, and he is just a big, strong man who goes and hits things really hard. And in fact, he kills multiple enemies just by smashing heads or punching them too hard, things of that nature. Next up in the group, we've got, let's mention Sturm Brightblade. Sturm is a Knight of Solema of the Order of the Rose, I believe. And that just, basically, he is a knight whose family fled in disgrace after his country, Solemnia, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, fell into disgrace. And basically, he has gone and retrieved his family's armor from his homeland and has come back. He didn't find any trace of the gods, but basically, he is your typical knight. He is very honor-bound. He takes honor very seriously. But you have to convince him. I didn't like Sturm. I know Alan from the Library of Alexandria thinks Sturm is the best. I don't understand. Because basically, even though he follows his code, basically, a dragon could be bearing down on him. And he's like, I will not run in the face of fear. And then somebody's got to go, Sturm, the women. And he's just like, oh, I must protect the women. I can't fight this dragon. I'll be back for you. Whatever. So that's Sturm. My two favorites from the Heroes of the Lance are going to be Flint Fireforge and Tasselhoff Burfoot. Tasselhoff is what is referred to as a Kinder. Basically, he is almost like a halfling-style small person. His entire race is just halfling. But he's also got sticky fingers and just this childish attitude towards life. He wants adventure. He's curious about everything. He appropriates things to study, but then gets offended if you say that he's stolen from you. Because he was just, you're lucky he found it, because otherwise it would have been lost. But Tasselhoff, I think, is the true hero of the piece. He is fantastic, he's funny, he's just all around a great, great character. And then Flint, the way he interacts with Flint is because he's childish. Flint is that grumpy old man. And so Flint loves Tasselhoff, but he gets on his nerves. And it's fantastic. Flint is a dwarf. And, I mean, he is just the typical dwarf. It's funny, whenever Flint is on the page, I hear John Rhys-Davies' Gimli voice in my brain whenever Flint is talking. He's an older dwarf. He's kind of the father figure who helped raise most of the Heroes of the Lance. He took them in, or he helped acclimate them to the world at large. He is just fantastic. Well, that said, structurally, again, it moves from encounter to encounter, from plot point to plot point. And there are just some things that get lost in translation, I think. Because pacing, you don't take the time to get to know the characters, really. Like I said, this is a very story-driven book. But there's a lot of heart, a lot of fun, and a lot of just great, great, great moments in this book. There are moments with gully dwarves who are just small, even smaller dwarves who are kind of subpar intelligence. They're smelly, but at the same time, like Raceland has a friendship in here with one that's just fantastic and heartwarming. You get to really see the dynamics of the group where, like, Tanis is the leader. Even though you may not understand why he's the leader, he is the leader, and they defer to him. You know, Sturm is the moral compass, and people will, you know, check themselves against Sturm. Or they'll be like, hey, you know, let's be realistic. Honor is one thing, but they use him as a sounding board for that. And then, you know, Raceland is very much your realistic. He's a realist. He's going to be like, listen, yeah, that we should just probably leave this person to die because they're just going to hold us back. Or you're more welcome to go back, but it's not going to do any good. He's that guy. Caraman's the guy with the heart. And he just wants everything. He wants everyone to be happy, healthy, and safe. And he's going to do whatever he can to get that done. Dez just wants to have fun. Flint just wants to go and sit down and, you know, he's too old for this garbage. But story-wise, I've got no real complaints here. There are some dark moments in here. There are some bright moments. It's a fantastic book. But that said, it didn't age well for me. You know, I didn't super love the pacing. I didn't love a lot of the structure. I have found that as I've gotten older, I am more of a character-based reader. And so that's why I've been talking more about the characters here, because I know who they are, but they're not really, you're told who they are, and they're acted out here in the book. So, for me, this is still a solid 4 out of 5. I can understand why some people would rate it lower, but again, I've been reading this book off and on for the last, going on 20 years. So let me know in the comments down below what you think of this book, what you think of what I think of this book. If you intend to read it, if you don't intend to read it, I would love to know your thoughts down below in the comments. I do give this a high recommend, just to try. You may like it, and it may pull you into a bigger world. You know, you've got Dragonlance or you've got Forgotten Realms. I know certain people prefer one over the other. I am a Dragonlance reader. I have just now bought my first Forgotten Realms books, which are the original 3 Drizzt books. I haven't read those yet. That said, guys, that is my review kind of here, my non-spoiler thoughts for the Dragons of Autumn Twilight. So, till next time, make sure you're staying magical. Peace out. Bye.